Hey, everybody, this is Charles Cook, your host here at Cook Baxter. It's great to be with you today. A beautiful day here in the South, and except for Florida. It's a terrible day. All hearts out and prayers out to those in Florida, especially those dumb enough to stay in the area they told you to evacuate from. I hope you live, hopefully. If it's not too late to get out, you should leave now. So today I want to talk about three things, as I always do, to start this before we answer questions, about that are kind of on point for what's going on. And the first, of course, that we cannot ignore is DACA. So tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Central Time, there is oral argument in the DACA appeal. Finally, I mean, this seemed to be a really long delay in getting this oral argument. I mean, think about it. This DACA case has basically been going on since, oh my God, 2012. I mean, it's gone forever. All right. So just a brief history. Court strikes down DACA, but allows it to continue while it goes on appeal to the Supreme Court. Biden comes down and says, no, we're going to, he gets elected. We're going to redo DACA. They republished the regs. Finally, it took them forever, but they redid it. They get them published. Judge says, nope, still not good enough. Still suck. You, Biden, don't have legal authority to adjudicate this. The Fifth Circuit heard an appeal last year on this, and it was sent back to the judge. Say, look, they redid the rules. They followed the APA, which is the main reason you denied it before. And the judge said, no, the main reason I denied it before is they didn't have legal authority. Okay, so now it's back at the Fifth Circuit. But in the intervening time, the Supreme Court has issued a couple of really, really important decisions on the issue of standing. Standing is who is allowed to sue. You can only sue somebody, not if you have a legal claim, but you have to have injury. You have to be damaged somehow. You must have a foot in the door. You must have some skin in the game. And a couple of times over the last year, the Supreme Court has told the state of Texas specifically on immigration issues, you don't have standing. You don't have the legal right to sue because you're not damaged. Now, what is the state of Texas's claim in the DACA case? Their claim is they are damaged because they have to issue driver's licenses to DACA recipients. Now, keep in mind, DACA has now been around for 12 years. And that's all they can come up with is they have to issue more driver's licenses. I haven't seen any update from the state of Texas saying, here's more damage that we have. And that's probably because there is no damage. I don't know if you know this or not, but you pay for your driver's license. Presumptively, that is to cover the cost of your driver's license. So what is the damage like Texas is getting from 80,000 DACA recipients? And their whole society is damaged. So these 80,000 shouldn't get licenses. And this judge decides to shut down a nationwide program because Texas is affected by it. The oral argument tomorrow is interesting. It's not the same panel. The last panel that struck down DACA and sent it back were two Trump appointees on that panel and a Bush appointee. This panel is very different. You've got Jerry Smith, who's old. He's a Ronald Reagan appointee. Got to be in his 80s. Edith Brown, a George Bush appointee, not a Trump person, And then there's an Obama appointee. Judge Higginson is an Obama appointee. So you've got a very different panel this time, which is why I remain optimistic. First of all, I don't think they're standing. I mean, based on recent Supreme Court decisions, Texas hasn't really updated their stuff, their arguments. I think this gets tossed on standing. I don't even think we get to, does the president have legal authority? Because you can't get to that argument if there's no standing. If you can't bring the case, you can't get there. Now, the downside, I'm going to tell you, there's a downside to them finding there's no standing. Because if Trump gets elected, this same thing is going to apply to states who, and keep in mind, we stopped Trump on most everything he tried to do that was really bad. because a lot of states, attorney generals, the blue states sued them and won a lot. Well, if the argument is states don't really have authority to sue on this, that's going to go away in the Trump presidency. So, and you can see why that's not necessarily a good thing. But at the same time, it would be good for DACA, right? So, and that's 535,000 people that would now be able to renew their status, be able to travel freely. And those 90,000 that are frozen, that filed the first 6 months of the Biden administration, and likely 200,000 or 300,000 more people who haven't been able to apply since 2017. I mean, there's probably, that's going to push DACA back up to about 900,000 is my guess for this, for those that are eligible. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So that oral argument's at tomorrow at 9:30. I'm probably gonna go live around noon to talk about the oral argument, to talk about what was talked about, how I perceive the justices' reactions. It's only an hour long. You can tune in, just Google Fifth Circuit oral arguments, and should be there live. But that's tomorrow. That's the big news on DACA. Now, obviously, you understand. If Trump gets elected, DACA's gone. Do you understand that, right? Because if Biden wins this, it's based on the fact that they went through the proper APA rules, the Administrative Procedure Act, which is why Trump couldn't end it, because he didn't follow the rules. They're just too dumb. Even though I told Obama to do this back in 2014, he never did either. They're both dumb. But Biden finally did it, because the court said he would, even though you can find my tweets and my blog from this back in 2012. You're going to see, really interestingly, that he's going to immediately publish a rule ending DACA. So if you have DACA today, I believe you still have time to do an advanced parole. And if you haven't done an advanced parole, you're a fool. Get your legal entry. Get your legal entry. And here's why. This is a fascinating thing. We're going to talk more about stats later. But did you know this? That on DACA, over 170,000 DACA recipients. So of DACA, 535,000, 361,000 are married. They're married. There's another 14,000 divorced, another 640 widowed. They're married. I'm going to tell you, a big chunk of you DACA recipients are probably married to U.S. citizens. If you don't have the permanent bar, which is a whole other day we'll talk about, why aren't you getting advanced parole and traveling? DACA used to have almost 1 million people in it. Now there's 535,000. Why? Most people got their green cards through marriage. What are you waiting for? Please, if you've got DACA, make that happen. It's just fascinating demographics on DACA, by the way. Here in Atlanta, there's 12,000 DACA recipients. In Georgia, there's 17,000. California has 150,000. Georgia's the number 8 state. There's more DACA recipients in North Carolina, oddly enough, than Georgia. A state a little bit smaller than Georgia. I'm a little shocked by that, actually. Florida only has 21,000 DACA recipients. My guess is a lot of people have just gotten green cards in those states. So those are the kind of the demographics. And of the 535,000 DACA recipients, 430,000, about 80+%, are Mexican. From Mexico. But it's not just Latin America that are represented here. I went through the numbers here, and there are 10 DACA recipients from Luxembourg. Luxembourg? Really? How interesting is that? 10 from... I've never had anybody from Luxembourg. I just find that absolutely fascinating. Luxembourg. There you go. Who would have known? So that's it on DACA. We'll live tomorrow at noon and kind of go over that. All right. Next thing we want to talk about here is EB-2s. We get a lot of calls because we've been doing employment-based immigration, for 35 years, and on these cases since 1990. I've been a lawyer since before 1990. NIWs were created in 1990. I was one of the first lawyers to do NIWs back in the day. So I've been doing it for 35 years. We get a lot of inquiries about NIWs. And, I'll look at an NIW for free, send me your resume, send me what your national interest is. But there's been a flood of NIW cases in the last couple of years because there's been a lot of people on the internet that do their TikToks and say you should apply for NIW. And as a result, we're seeing, massively greater numbers of EB-2 cases being filed. Just remember, master's degree or equivalent from abroad, and that you have to serve a national interest: U.S. healthcare, technology, STEM stuff, business that affects not just the company, but the greater business. There's lots of ways you can file for NIW. If you're ever interested in NIW, just email me. Email me your CV, your resume, and we'll take a look at it. Here's my email address. Email me your CV. We'll take a look at it and see if we think you qualify. If we think you might qualify, we'll give you a questionnaire to fill out, give you a list of documents to give us, then we make a secondary determination whether we think we're going to win this. We're not one of the shops that files every case, all right? There's a lot of shops that do that, and the result, denial rates on NIW cases are exceeding, it looks like 30% at this point, which is crazy. It never got above like 5% in the past, but a lot of garbage being thrown against the wall by even non-lawyers or even some lower-level lawyers. But we'll tell you whether you qualify or not, and whether you think you should proceed, and we'll tell you what we think your odds might be if you do it. Some people will look at it and go, 50-50. It's just, this is one of those things that immigration may do it. A lot will depend on the examiner that's assigned to. You want to roll the dice, you can roll the dice. Most people lose nothing by trying, but you don't want to waste your money either. So if you want to do this, if you want to do the NIW, let me know. Email me your CV, and I'm happy to take a look at that thing. Now, the other thing I want to spend a little time on today, until you get to your question, or you can ask me questions about anything on immigration, is the backlogs. So every quarter, the Immigration Service publishes their stats on things. And, some recent stats came out on asylum, which I've talked about previously. Did you know that there are 1.31 million pending asylum cases, 1.3 million pending asylum cases, and that the government last year only completed, what was the number they completed here? I look at this. They only completed a total of, looks like, well, they didn't total that. That's interesting. That's immigration did a really crappy job of telling us what they finished this year. Let's see. Interview outcome. They didn't total all the totals here. Here we go. Total. So they completed 14,000 interviews last year. That's it? In the whole freaking year? 14,000 interviews? That's kind of crazy. And only reviewed 22,000 cases. I mean, they've got a million. That's like a jillion-year backlog for asylum cases. So, if you've got a legitimate asylum case and you file it affirmatively, it looks like you're going to be here for a decade before you get an answer on anything. But let's look at the numbers, though. What I really want to look at, and I think it's really, really important, are the numbers on priority dates. I'm going to see if I can kind of share this field with you guys, share this view, because I think this helps you get a better view of what's going on here. Let's see if I can get this. Get a window. Here we go. This is this is what I want to share. Let's see if we can see a little bit of this. I don't know how much of this you guys can see. They're really low, really tiny print. But what's interesting here on these numbers, and the way immigration presents the data is junk. This is a spreadsheet which you can download off their webpage. Just Google USCIS Statistics. This is by a priority date month over, it looks like the last couple of years, last year, for all the employment-based numbers. So, and then the upper bar, so the first line are EB-1s, for example, the priority date month, and then their years. Basically what they're telling you is that for the rest of the world, there are 39 I-140s and pending 485s. Pending 485s for people with priority dates prior to 2014. Now, keep in mind, the visa bulletin for the rest of the world is current. This is a crazy number. Why are there 39 prior to that? And really, there are 1,000. Let's see. There's about 300 EB-1 cases with priority dates with current adjustments, with priority dates prior to the current priority date. That's insane. And 1,000 filed for so far in 2024. So fiscal year 2024. That's rest of the world, right? So the rest of the world, you have lots of availability. I'm telling you, it's lots of availability to do an extraordinary ability EB-1. Lots of availability. On the EB-2, it's interesting. Rest of the world, it looks like there are, see the increasing number of cases here on this line for fiscal year 2023. I mean, they jumped up to 2,000 cases filed that are still pending from 2023. And those are kind of going to be frozen because for 2022, because the priority dates for that have now backlogged. I mean, even though 2022 is current and they could be working on them, they're not. And again, these are cases in which there's pending adjustment of status applications. And then you go to EB-3, the rest of the world, there are visas available for EB-3 rest of the world, and they seem to be working on them, but the backlog for rest of the world is back to November 2022. It's interesting to me why the priority date backlog is so large when the numbers themselves don't reflect that large S. For example, for other workers, those numbers for other workers are huge, all right, but they're still not reaching, there as I can tell, the 10,000. Now, once you switch over, for example, to India, and you look at India's backlog, you see their numbers going back to really 2012, because the priority dates for India for EB-2 are 2012, but the priority dates for EB-1 up here is 2022. And you've got hundreds of EB-1s with priority date availability that appear to have not been adjudicated. They have employment-based preference pending adjustment applications for these cases. Why? Why are they hundreds of EB-1s for Indians prior to 2022 that are unadjudicated? You got me. I have no explanation for this. I'm sure immigration will give you an explanation that's unbelievable, but this is a crazy number for pending adjustment applications. Let's just switch down to EB-3s right here. For EB-3s, they're basically telling you, they don't even put EB-3. That's interesting. They go from EB-1s in their line, unlike the other one, to EB-3 other workers, of which they don't give you any numbers. They just don't give you any numbers here. This is bizarre. Are they telling you they completed everybody that filed? Again, you're looking at really bizarre stuff here. Here's EB-3. Oh, here we go. Different lines. Here's your EB-3 availability for pending adjustments. So immigration is telling you here that, oh my God, oh my God. Well, okay, so 2014. So we know the priority date for EB-2 is July 2012. So prior to July 2012, there looks like several hundred EB-2s for Indians with pending adjustment applications. Why aren't they being approved? What's the deal with these? Some of them going back to 2010. What's the deal with that? On current, like the EB-2s here, there's probably 20,000 EB-2 2013 and 2014 cases. Look at that. Several thousand that aren't current right now. And yet under the 2012 numbers, keep in mind, EB-2 is for India is July 2012. Are they saying all these are post-July? They've adjudicated everybody prior to July 2012? Then why aren't they moving the dates? Why aren't the dates progressing on these? But look at that. If India is only going to get max 1,500 EB-2s a year or 1,800 EB-2s a year, by the way, these don't include spouses. These are just principals. It's gonna be years before that date moves forward, because just in July, August, and September, you've got 20. Let's say the average family size is 1, so it's 1.1. You've got 2,500 EB-2s just in these months. So you're going to see EB-2 move for India only a couple of months this year because of that. And you're looking at, I don't know, a jillion-year backlog here from what's pending. There, basically, anybody post, what is this, November 2020, 2014, you're never going to apply for a green card. They're never going to get current. I mean, we need to increase the numbers. We absolutely must increase the numbers. This is insane. And I don't think anybody's doing an article looking at these numbers here. Oddly enough, when you look at Mexico and why they separate Mexico out, I don't know, because Mexico, they have them in an outpart category, but all their dates are the same as rest of the world. So I mean, are they anticipating they go bigger? There's no justification for that in these numbers for EB-1s. That's a lot of EB-1s, by the way, for Mexicans. Congratulations. And even looking at third preference, there's not that many Mexicans here that are going to throw those numbers off. So it's really interesting to see what these numbers look like. China, by the way, has a really interesting dichotomy, because China for EB-1 is November 2022, and yet there appear to be a large number of adjustments for Chinese nationals that have been pending prior to the current priority date. All right, so these numbers are fascinating, and it's really important why we look at these things, because they give immigration lawyers an idea about how many folks are pending, and with adjustment app, these are just pending adjustments. Now, I want to show you another screen, because I want to show you this screen here. Find the tab here on the window. I want to show you this screen. This screen is the are the numbers of people with priority dates and approved I-140s by country. Now, I've written a blog on this last year, talking about the visa apocalypse, but I didn't take into account the pending adjustment applications. These are people that cannot even file adjustments. There's 1.5, so use the multiplier 1.1. You've got, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 million people. The Chinese, there's 150,000. So, for their use of of all EBs, you're looking at no country's going to use more than like 18,000, 20,000. They got 5 years of backlog. But you look at India, it's 100 years, 150 years, and that's why Mexico, oddly enough, they could use all their numbers. They don't. I don't understand this backlog here. Rest of the world right now is looking at, probably around a 5-year backlog, but a big chunk of that is these really SIJ cases. This is not religious workers, by the way. These are mostly SIJ cases, but religious workers are caught up in this nightmare. Oh no, they got them over here, 1,500, but they treat these the same for number purposes. So. You see the numbers. These are big backlogs. Okay, these are big backlogs, but it's India and China that are really suffering the most, and that's not going to change until there's honestly a Congress willing to deal with these numbers in a rational way. So let's take some. I talked a lot today. My voice is kind of going. I'm going to drink my drink here. Let's answer some questions. All right, we've got Johnny. Thank you very much for your pressure. It took me a month to receive my DACA renewal. That's great. Yeah, it appears that some of them are just flying through right now. Just don't tell your neighbor, because he's probably taken 8 months on his. How long does it take BIA to review the appeal for submitting briefs? Lamar, 6 to 12 to 2 years, 2 months, 12 months, 24 months. It just depends on which panel or judge you're assigned to. Some are faster than others. Any news? PLP, don't know what parole in place. No, there's no news on that, except what I talked about. Well, I talked about Spanish last week. Parole in place, the judge is going to have having a final hearing the day after the election. November 6th is the final hearing, which will become irrelevant if Harris loses, as you all know, as I've been talking about, which is why you probably at this point don't file anything. While you're filing now, just wait 3 more weeks and see what happens on the election. Keep in mind, if you're a U.S. citizen spouse and you're trying to get parole in place for your beloved esposa, your wife, or your husband, you better be voting for Harris, because you're a fool if you're voting for Trump. I mean, there's a reason not to vote for Trump, but that's a foolish thing to do. I did have somebody tell, I'm going to vote for Trump. And you're trying to get parole in place for your wife? You understand it goes away, right? Oh, Trump won't do that. Yes, he will. Also, just Oscar, I got a question. I'm 2 months away from my case proof for petition my wife at F2A. How long should I expect to have the process moved by for after? Okay, if your priority date is current, because it's not just it's approved, it has to be current. Oh, it is current. Depends on the consulate. Mexico is a year. Mexico's a year. Salvador could be 6 months. Peru could be 4 months. Canada could be 2 years. Just depends on where your wife's from. Hello, thank you for live in English. You're welcome. I love doing lives. I love your picture, by the way. Expiration saved November 8th. Yes, that means it'll be no. That means the judge will. I think the judge will make a decision by then. I think he's already decided the case. I think he's going to allow it, in my opinion, because I don't think they're standing here. I think he's going to toss it on standing. I really do, but that's just me. And honestly, people, one guy called me out and said, I can't believe that you insulted the people who had an interest who sued to become a part of the case. Mira, look, the plain fact of the matter is, if people who were beneficiaries of the program had not sued to try to get involved in the lawsuit, we would already have a decision. We would have that decision. Yes or no? We would know. Okay, but because they wanted to get in and they were tossed out on appeal, as they should have been, they shouldn't really. If you don't trust the Biden administration, and their briefs were great. This group, they're good lawyers that want to intervene. They're good people that want to intervene. But strategically, it was a bad decision. And somebody said, well, people should have a voice in what affects them. Yes, they should. But they should also strategically think about the delay caused by doing that. Okay? TikTok, my friends, this was a strategic mistake. And I'll probably get hate mail from that, but that's life. I love your live, your content. Thank you, Yuri. System is, you don't have to tell me. It was broken before it was the USCIS. Expiration date, November 8th for same place. Again, there'll be a decision on November 8th. Best second live immigration on YouTube after hacking. Oh, hacking's awesome. Jim is terrific. And he's a great lawyer as well. Terrific lawyer. I need your help, please, about my case. Great. Jose Montiel, all you got to do is, like anybody else, just give a call, make the appointment. We're here to help. That's what we do all day long. We help people. It's actually kind of cool. I love what I do. Love helping people. Let's see. We've got green card through kindness. Oh, great. That's, by the way, it just reminds me, if you have TPS and you have a removal order, you get an automatic motion to reopen approved. So if you've got TPS, you need to be now filing, because the last chance is January. You need to be doing this now. Okay? Oscar, if one meets the requirements for NIW available to DACA recipients unlawfully accrued time, what we need to be doing? So do you have unlawful presence? In other words, did you get your DACA before you were 18 and a half? If not, then you have unlawful presence. And when you leave, you have a 3-year bar. So what you would do, if you have less than a year, but more than 6 months, you would try to get an H-1B, come back in, serve the 3 years here, and then file the NIW adjustment of status. If you have more than a year of unlawful presence, the H-1B thing is not going to help you long-term, because you can only have an H-1B for 6 years. So I don't really have an answer for you in that circumstance, other than marry a U.S. citizen or make sure one of your parents is a resident or citizen, and they can do a waiver for you. I asked this question before. I entered 1990, left June 97 to see my mom. I came back August 2000. You don't have a permanent bar. You don't have to prove anything. What are you proving? You don't have to prove anything. It's not your job to prove it. You're proof. I left in 97. I see my mom, right? Okay, your testimony is sufficient. You don't have to prove anything. I'd take that case. I would win that case. Well, buenos días. Los casos de DACA congelados tienen alguna esperanza. Tal vez en un mes, 2 meses sabremos. EB-2 resident backlog. Is the embassy as a number? Yeah. 78,000 documentarily qualified. What I'm telling you, I'm looking at adjustment, right? There's embassy people. If they've got rest of the world EB-3 78,000, that would explain why the delay is what it is, but it's not based on adjustment of status cases. Sandra, I have a question on asylum. If someone with a minor with a child asks for asylum, they decide to go back for court, well, if you don't go to court, you have a removal order. So if you're not going to go to court and you want to leave, talk to your lawyer about getting voluntary departure, and then you can leave. And then you don't have a removal order, which affects your child more than you. Still waiting on approval on a 601 waiver, going 18 months. Right now, 601s, I think, aren't they like 28 and a half months right now? Isn't that, let's take a look here. Let's see, I haven't looked at their numbers on this in a couple of weeks, and they do change every Monday. Oh, somebody scammed the immigration website when you spell it wrong. How about that? What a bunch of scumbags. All right, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. Processing time for Nebraska is 28 and a half months. Danielle, this month, October's your month. RK is indicated for the finding not much movement. Yeah, I don't think it's going to move. Another question: can administratively closed ABC class member asylum be reopened? Oh, if it's administratively closed, 100%. You just have to move to recalendar. You don't have to reopen it. You recalendar it, and that's your right, and you can certainly do that. Greetings from Lake Tahoe. Great to see you. I love Lake Tahoe. What a great place. In the spring, summer, and fall. Not so much wintertime. I'm not a skier. Greetings from Lake Tahoe. Great. Jim talks greatly. Yeah, Jim is he's an awesome lawyer. Love that guy. And he's even a better human being than he is a lawyer. Of the 78,000 if he's rest of the world, plus 10,000 backlog. Yeah, well, because there will be no spillover. They're not, family numbers will be used in completion. Keep in mind, even though there's 575,000 family numbers, that's reduced by immediate relatives, and there's always 500,000 immediate relatives. So the maximum family every year is only 225, and they're always going to use that. They just are, they're always going to use that. Keep in mind, there's 1.8 million I-130s waiting. So there's a jillion long year waiting line there too. Wow, what a day! What a day! What a day! It's been great being with you guys. I'm going to be back. I'll be back next week. Talking about immigration. Next week will be in Spanish. But I always answer questions in English. But we'll see you then. Have a great week. And at least for me, I start voting next Wednesday. I can vote next Wednesday. Wherever you are, start to vote. And don't vote for Trump. Really, he's terrible on this issue. He's going to destroy the immigration system. I promise you, it's going to happen. Don't let it. Oh, see you guys later. Bye-bye.